This episode of Misery Hunters is brought to you by Paisley Craft Beer Co., Paisley's #1 and only craft beer venue. You can sit in and take away, and we've also just introduced a local delivery service. So if you live in the Renfrewshire area and are looking for craft beer, we can deliver the same day if you order before 1 o'clock. Next day delivery as well for any time after that. Minimum order is £20. Any orders over 60, you get free delivery. So what are you waiting for? Go to paisleycraftbeer.com. That's paisleycraftbeer.com. Hello, you miserable bastards, and welcome to the Misery Hunters podcast. My name is Jamie Coburn, and in true Misery Hunter fashion, once we've finally won a game, we only have one person else on, and that is Sam Smith.
Alright, good evening. Aye, I know, it's a poor show for the rest of them. But
it is a poor show. I mean, they all have excuses, but
none of them are good enough to be missing it, I'm afraid.
That's true.
Apart from Craig. Craig's obviously, holiday, technically, but the rest... Fuck them.
No, but fuck Craig for going on holiday in the middle of the season.
Aye, missing some. I think he's back this Saturday, which is alright. I mean, he's missing absolutely fuck all, other than folk moaning on Twitter about cheap tickets. But
we'll get to
that's
that.
What it is.
We will get to that. First and foremost, we'll talk about a defeat. It seems so long ago, but the Hibs game, like, it's more or less out of my memory, even though I did watch it. Sam, you were there. I was.
Aye, it was. I think it was probably the worst they've played under Robinson. Actually, I'd probably say. I'm kind of always trying not counting the games against the Old Firm. Obviously, the Rangers game was a bit of a write-off. We get tanked 4-0 off on the day. Probably the best team in the league. And I think. We made Hibs look a lot better than what they should be. I think if going to give us credit about something, I think we were a lot better defensively. I think definitely over the wee break we had, obviously Robinson worked well to kind of tighten up the defence, but then any sort of game plan you've got gets fired right out the window when Richard Tate's got to come off. I think it was like within the first 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So, you've worked for 2 weeks to go back to playing the shape of 5 at the back. Then it's thrown right out the window. And then you've got, Marcus Fraser going back to right back, who's been really vulnerable defensively. And I just think when he went off, it didn't really suit us at all. We faded at the game. We never created much at all in the first half, apart from, I think Brophy forced a kind of decent save for Macy. Other than that, the second half, and Tanzer hit the bar was the only other chance I know. But it was a really lacklustre performance. There was nothing. A few individuals were horrendous. I thought it was probably the worst game Power had in a while, but he wasn't helped either by Erehon next time. Erehon with the kind of games that he's becoming a bit of a signature for him. He'll start well for the first 10-15 minutes and then just completely lose interest as soon as somebody hits him a wee bit harder. He doesn't want to get involved in the dirty side of the game, which is frustrating. Obviously, we know how good he is. I think everybody that's on the podcast still says the same thing. He's quite clearly a very gifted footballer, but for whatever reason, he seems to be wasting it away. And I'd imagine we'll get to it later, but obviously the interest in him, it's probably best for him if he does get to fuck.
It probably is, yeah. And the goal to concede, it really, like, Hibs were really not offering much to that game. I think that's what's the most frustrating thing about losing that game is Hibs were fucking awful. And then they really run up, have one chance, and they score from it.
Aye, I said after the game, I tweeted after the game, I said, listen, we didn't by no means deserve to win it, but we definitely didn't deserve to lose it. Hibs' only chance of the game. I think it was the only save, he should have fucking saved it, but it was the only thing that Anik really had to deal with, and he dealt with it really poorly. I thought, you get taught for a young age as a goalie, if you're going to come out, you need to spread yourself, make yourself look big. He kind of goes out his way to go into the side and make himself a wee bit too narrow. And to be fair, taking that away for Henderson, it's a good finish. But it was an incredibly frustrating goal to lose. It was just one ball over the top, completely undone. Any of the good defensive work we done. I think McCarthy, it was Shaughnessy made the initial tackle, but McCarthy's a wee bit out of position, flicks it through, and as I said, a decent enough finish for Henderson, but over the piece, I think the last 2 years you'd probably expect Anik to do a bit better with it, but it is what it is. He's no Superman. He's prone to making one error when he's been brilliant for the 2 years he's been here.
There was calls, I think, for it to be offside, but I mean, I was watching it on Sitmore TV, and I mean, there was not one angle where you can actually see if it would have been offside or not, so I generally have no idea. And you'd probably have to go by like the main stand. And I mean, the reaction and some of the players' reactions would say it might have been, but like it's one of those ones it's hard to really tell, and it's not really been talked about since, so it probably was the correct decision.
I don't think there was any controversy in the decision. I think the referees kind of got on with it pretty well. I even watched it on Sportscene. Sportscene are usually pretty weird for whipping at the lines with the wee rulers on the telly. Stevie Thompson, Marvin Bartley going over it with a tooth comb, but it was definitely onside and just really frustrating. I think even Robinson summed it up pretty well after the game. He said he didn't think we'd done enough to win it, but we definitely never done enough to. We definitely didn't deserve to lose it, but it was another 3 points drop that gave people more reason to get on it, the management team, and to be fair, I think it was the first time it was probably justified. But move on, obviously. Can go on to the positive next.
Yeah, we'll move on to the positive, and I will say that you're going to do most of the heavy lifting on this, because the Food and Drink Festival was there on Saturday, and it was the busiest Saturday I've ever had in the shop, to which a customer had to go, he's good, he's got a result. And I went, shit, we were playing the day. Totally forgot, because I've kept that busy, but thank you to everybody who attended. That was very handy. But yeah, 3 points. I just watched the highlights there. We looked pretty much in control of the game. St Johnstone's chances were... I mean, did they have a shot on target? I didn't really see in any of the highlights Anik making a save. There was a few by the post, like some pot shots from outside the box, but other than that, St Johnstone didn't really offer much, and that's probably why they're in the position that they are. But obviously, we're kind of forced to start Grieve because of the injury to Brophy, and that happened in the Hibs game, and he was on the bench, but he looked like he was causing issues, and I think he got the first real shot of the game at the start as well, forcing Zander Park to make a good save.
That was genuinely within a minute of the game. I think it was probably in 20-30 seconds that happened. Obviously, we won the ball up pretty high. Gogic plays the ball in, and Grieve, to be honest, I think a couple of people have touched on it. It really set the tone for the game. The Grieve, and we'll get to it. The front two pairing were brilliant, but Grieve especially, his pace does cause real problems for defences, and I think while we've still got the kind of raw youthfulness of a guy who would be willing to run anywhere, willing to put his body anywhere just to prove himself, we need to take advantage of it as much as we can. It's inevitable over time we become a bit smarter, they'll not run about as much, but he ran his arse into the ground, and he was brilliant. We got just rewards for the front pairings performance, and as I said, it set the tone. And as you said, St Johnstone, you can see why they've not won many games this season. They are a really, really bad football team, but you'd expect to see a wee bit more fight for a team that, if they won, that was probably they would have brought us right back into it within 2 points. I think it would have been. Would have put us under serious pressure, but we were controlled start to finish. As you said, restricted them to next to no chances. I think probably the best one came for just inside the box for a guy I'd probably love us to sign, Callum Hendry. He was unlucky with that one that flashed just past the post in the first half, but it was a canter, to be honest.
Before we talk about the goal, you mentioned there about Callum Hendry, a player you want to sign. Anybody else from that St Johnstone team that you would take a gamble on if they went down? I think the only other player would be Middleton, and that would then even maybe, that would they fit into the maybe no?
Nah, I'd maybe take a punt on Jamie McCart. I quite like him. I think McCart's good left-footed centre half. Obviously, we've seen they're obviously a bit of a rarity. It was what Goodwin was after for 2 or 3 years. It us gives your backline a good balance, but having a bit of rush to go inside him. I don't think they've got anything other than Hendry that I'd be particularly interested in. I mean, their benches especially for some of the subs. I mean, even their bench, Murray Davidson still starts games for them in 2022. And Cammy McPherson's probably their best midfielder. So it says a lot about where they're at compared to us, and there's only one league place in between the two teams.
Well, the goal that came, it was it a ball from Ronan up to
Zidane, big Gogic in the middle of the park.
Was that it? I think I might have another chance, but good ball from Gogic. Grieve obviously gets onto it, does the right thing, cuts it back onto Kiltie, who slots it home, and it just shows you that Kiltie in that number 10 role, like how good he actually is, like the amount of times he's been forced out of that position this season, and when you see him play in that position and how natural he is, and him creating goals and scoring goals, it is frustrating the amount of times we've played games, not picked up anything, not even threatened the goal line, and he's been put out of that position, but when you put him back in the position, he obviously creates danger.
He's a really good player, and we said it for the first 6 months of the season that he's wasted. He was wasted in the position he was getting played. Goodwin's trying to play with two number 10s and essentially having to play Kiltie and centre midfield, which never worked. Playing him next to McGrath, it really limited. It probably took 6 months off his career where he could have been playing probably in the best team he's probably played in so far. And he's had a starring role in what could have probably been a really big part of his career, and Goodwin obviously stunted his growth a bit. But since January, in fairness to him, they put him straight in behind the striker and the number 10, and that's where you get the best of him. And Robinson said as much after the game. He says, like, it's just, you've got to build your team around guys like that. Guys that are good number 10s that can chip in with goals, get assists. You need to find a way to get them in the team no matter what. And hopefully we can see him in there. I really like Kiltie as a player. I think he's got a very good knack at making good late runs into the box and getting goals like that more often than. He could have probably done it. As I said, he could have been doing this for the first 6 months of the season, but we fucked about the formations that weren't working. It was a good goal though, really good. It was quick and really earned 3 passes. We managed to cut them open completely. And good, obviously, you can say about Gogic's pass as well. He was by a country mile the best player in the park on Saturday. He was excellent start to finish. He was everywhere. He was winning, picking up every loose ball, starting moves, driving forward constantly, and he was a menace. And even hit a direct free kick, albeit it hit right off the wall. But
it hit off the wall, and then he took a shot afterwards.
So I've seen it all now. I've seen Alexander Gogic hit a direct free kick.
And I guess the point everybody's waiting for us to make is Curtis Main. Not the most popular player that's ever been from this podcast. We kind of defended him at the start of the season. That kind of wore off quickly because we realised he doesn't do much. But he just went out and put out a fantastic performance while carrying an injury. Like, he has to get injections before every match. Is waiting for surgery, which will probably get done pre-season or over the summer. So it kind of adds to how good that performance was.
I think at the time, obviously, people are stupidly judging him on how many goals he scores. At the time when he was brought in, it was said, listen, this guy isn't going to come in and score the 15, 20 goals a season that everybody wants, and it's daft to suggest that he should be judged on that. But everything that Goodwin probably thought he was going to get to Curtis Main, and everything that Robinson previously got at Motherwell was what we seen on Saturday. He was a battering ram. Obviously Rooney, Gordon, McCarthy, 3 big physical guys. He don't really get shoved about a lot, and Main really did rattle the three of them. About his passing was excellent. I thought his hold up there was brilliant as well. We never lost a ball in the air. He kept running all the way at the very end, and if you can kind of overlook the lack of goals he's going to. If you're playing a guy like that, fine well he's not going to score goals. You can probably overlook it if he's making the job for a guy like Grieve or Brophy 10 times easier. So, it'd be obviously good luck to the guy when he gets his operation in the summer. Hopefully it helps him, and then hopefully he can come back in pre-season. If he doesn't go, obviously if he goes, then fair enough, we'll cut our losses. He's probably on a decent wage, but if he comes back and he does that 30 times next season, and you've got a real handful of a striker in your hands.
We do. Kind of touching on, I think, points that we made. We've not made them on the podcast, but we definitely made them in the group chat. At least was next season when Robinson gets his sort of team in shape, and we know we'll probably sign a couple of wingers in his style of play, I'm really excited to see what numbers Alex Grieve can put up. I think even Brophy, like I think Brophy's probably been like the fact that he went out on a limb and signed for us because of the promises of the type of football that was going to be played by Goodwin. He's probably been let down by this situation that he's not been able to score goals because like the delivery into the box and stuff for him's been dreadful. Like creativity from the midfield's been missing. So like under Robinson, you reckon at least one of them's going to go over 10 goals next season?
Oh, definitely, and I think probably, obviously Brophy's the best striker at the club by a mile. He's the best finisher. When if you're wanting a chance to drop to something in the box, you're wanting to drop to Brophy because 9 times out of 10 he'll get it on target, put it in the back of the net. But I think Grieve really suits the way Robinson liked to play at Motherwell. Motherwell always did a kind of speedy, combative, like really eager guy who'd be willing to make plenty of runs. When they'd obviously Chris Long, Callum Lang, Devante Cole, Tony Watt, they've always had guys like that. So I think next season will probably be the one that Grieve will really begin to shine a wee bit more than he has already this season.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And anything else you want to touch on from the St Johnstone game?
The only other kind of major incident I can think of it was probably the one with McCart.
Or the stamp on Grieve.
Yeah, I definitely think it was. I definitely think it was a red card. I think he was really lucky to get away with it. Obviously, after Mark was talking about Gogic at the Player of the Year, saying he had to stop Alex Grieve from getting leathered off of Jamie McCart, which is quite funny. It was naughty. There was no need for it. I think the tackle initially was pretty bad, and it probably summed up the frustration. McCart was getting absolutely nothing for Grieve all day. It's quite embarrassing. Cup double winner for the best St Johnstone team all time was getting scudded about a boy that was playing in public parks in New Zealand 6 months ago. But I'll come up to him.
And not, as we found out, not doing bird baths, if anybody knows what that is. Mark did ask if he's ever had a bird bath or if he could have a bird bath or something, but he got really offended by the fact that he didn't know what it was, and then he got explained, and apparently he got offended that he thought that we would know, or he would know what that was. So
and we also can't repeat what a bird bath is on the podcast. Unless you want us to just Google it, but we will get taken right off of Spotify, Acast, YouTube, you name it, if we describe it as.
I mean, it's not something that the only reason we know about is from a TikTok that Russell Howard done. So like, I'm pretty sure
you do. Well, you knew about it. I didn't. So I only knew about it through you. You planted the seed, unfortunately.
Apparently, it's a New Zealand thing, but Alex Grieve didn't know about it, so maybe not. Looking at the Dundee game, our last home game on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Because obviously we've got Livingston at home following that. I reckon, like Dundee, like to show you that how far they're behind St Johnstone. I mean, how many points are they now behind St Johnstone? Like 6? 5.
5, yeah.
And St Johnstone are pretty bad. This is a game that you want, like Stephen Robinson will want to win. Like I genuinely think we're safe. We're not going down. We need a point to be safe.
We would need a St Johnstone need to win all 3 games regardless.
And that's not gonna
regardless. Happen. Yeah, that's not happening. They're not winning another game this season. They won't win any of the games in a playoff either. But I think Dundee, in fairness to them, when I've kind of watched their games and watched their highlights, on Saturday they probably could have been 2 or 3-0 up at half time against Aberdeen. I think they're a team that play well, and then once they realise that they're not going to maybe get that goal, they tend to switch off. So listen, I think as long as they're still got the belief in them that they can maybe claw back and make it a bit interesting over the last 2 games against St Johnstone, are obviously going to be a threat, but I think they'll probably be without Charlie Adam for this one, who he's their best player. He's the one that makes everything tick for them. When they replace him with a guy who's shite like Jordan McGee, nothing really happens. So I'm the same as you, really confident Robinson, and I imagine they'll have the players up for it as well. You'd like to think that to hopefully win this one, maybe be 2 goals for a heavy 2-goal cushion would be lovely before we head off to the best craft beer shop in Scotland.
Yeah, so there's actually a Misery Hunters Like we're all getting together to the best craft beer shop in the west of Scotland for a few drinks. So if you want to come in and slag Ross or something, I mean that's the place to do it.
Aye, definitely. Aye, still stuff all the time you want to come in and slag Ross. Aye, everybody always wants to do that. So.
I know.
Aye. I think if I'm going to make a prediction, I'd like to see that we'd finally win a game by a 2-goal margin in the league. But aye, go for 2-0. Fancy Grieve and hopefully the main man to score. But
I would love Grieve to finally get. I know we've been talking about finally get that hat trick, but it to be worse than Cody Cook's hat trick. Like a player, one of his goals is like a defender trying to clear it and it's bounced off his arse and went into the bottom corner. One of them.
I don't think you could get worse than Cody Cook's hat trick. I also see the goalkeeper that let the goals in, Jack Hamilton's Morton's Player of the Year. That's me and my pal Billy were talking about it on the way back home for the game on Saturday when we were on the bus, and we said like it is actually sad that Morton aren't like really good enough to play us anytime soon in the next few years unless he draws in a cup, because that just shows the difference in class. Like our best players, Connor Ronan, who's sought after by teams in the Bundesliga, there's is a goalkeeper who let in the worst 3 goals I've ever seen.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a wee second, but I genuinely think we'll get a win here. I'm still holding out my prediction that we'll get 9 points in the split. We've got 3 so far. I reckon we'll beat Dundee, and I reckon we'll beat Livingston, and we'll get a point against Aberdeen.
I think you said we were going to win 3, didn't you?
I did.
Or was it 4?
No, I said 3. I said we were going to get 9 points. We're a third of the way there.
Almost there. We've got 3 games left. 3 games left to do it, so we'll take that.
We mentioned Connor Ronan there. He's been linked with is it St. Pauli? Yeah.
Aye.
Yeah, amongst Hearts and stuff. He's not going to be in Scottish football next season. That's easy enough to say.
Oh, aye. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. He's a bit of a cut above playing for a team like Hearts or Aberdeen. He's a fucking cut above playing for a team like us. Yeah. So, I think a move like that would be really good for him. He seems to be pretty ballsy. You know, obviously he went on loan to Grasshopper before us, and I think he was on loan at a Slovakian team as well. So, you know, for a young guy, I say a young guy, he's a fucking year older than me, but he's pretty smart. He's switched on. He'll go and play football wherever he knows he's going to get game time and make an impact. And I'd love to see somebody like want to go and play in the Bundesliga. He definitely deserves it.
And another possible going we kind of already mentioned there was Ethan Erehon. He is linked with, moves to
Portsmouth, Oxford and Sassuolo.
Aye. I mean, you'd jump at the chance to go to Italy, wouldn't you? Even though I don't know.
Oh.
Don't know what
but then,
that area's like.
I think the thing is, obviously, Italy, it probably suits him a wee bit more. That style. No one's ever doubted Ethan's technical ability. It's just his, attitude, work rate. The way he gets about the pitch. He's always a pretty lacklustre. He shits his cell at tackles. I think if he's going to go and learn how to be disciplined and how to,
you may as well go to
the country that's famed for producing the best defenders of all time. I think it'd be daft not to take that opportunity for it to come up. But
I mean,
I think
it's done Aaron Hickey no harm. He's now linked with fucking Juventus and stuff. I
think Aaron Hickey's one of the best performing fullbacks in the world this season for goals and assists and defensive duels, aerial duels and all that. So it's a place to go learn. Obviously, we're not saying that Aaron Hickey's even Erehon's at the same level Aaron Hickey, but if there's a place you want to go learn the defensive side of the game, get a wee bit more discipline, probably get a bit up the arse, and a better structure, then go for it. All power to him. I just don't think he's going to. Sadly, he's not going to reach his potential at us.
No. I think especially after the comments he's made on Instagram, we won't delve into it too much, but it's not the first time he's done it. We've not really shared them, but we've shared them in the group chat, just the odd dig here and there, especially after a transfer window where he said something about not getting a move.
My time will come.
Yeah, that was it. He's always had these digs, and he's always had an attitude problem of such. That's why Goodwin sent him to Barnsley. Especially after the season with Kieran, it was a shame because it kind of looked like Antoine Ferdinand had slightly took him under his wing to kind of screw his nut down for a bit, and then obviously when he left, he then gets sent to Barnsley.
So the way I kind of thought about it, obviously he made his debut under Jack Ross. He was absolutely nowhere to be seen under Stubbs. Kearney comes in, plays him, but dropped him once he got a proper left back in. Goodwin, obviously, it's well noted that Goodwin didn't really like him. And then Robinson's not played him, so I'll probably stick my neck in the line here and say that, see, if managers are not playing you consistently, probably get a wee bit of a problem. They don't think you're as good as he seems to think he is. But if he goes, I don't wish any ill will on the boy. You know, hopefully he goes and has a good career. We make a good bit of money off it. But I think he needs a change. I've seen someone say, I think it was I can't remember who it was that said it on Pine Bovril. He's been here for 15 years. So, you know, he's been here since he's 5. That is a ridiculously long time to be at a club, especially. And if it has got a wee bit stale, then you know, have a clean break, get a good bit of money from him, reinvest it in the squad, and let him go flourish elsewhere if that's what he wants to do.
No, totally agree. Some of the incomings that have already been announced, Trevor Carson, as I think we kind of speculated that when Robinson first came in, that was a keeper that he obviously took to Morecambe on loan from Dundee United. We may have paid a bit of money for him. I'm not sure if his contract's.
I don't think it's any like ridiculous amount of money like the Morecambe fans on their forum are claiming. But I think Carson's a tremendous signing. I think when he was up here, he was one of the best goalkeepers in the league. He was always one of. I think he was like a move to Celtic under Brendan Rodgers. So
yeah, I think it was just difficult for him, especially at Motherwell. Like it was him and Mark Gillespie, who was obviously a great keeper. So you had 2 brilliant keepers, and they were kind of chop and change throughout that season before Mark Gillespie kind of found a rhythm. So that was kind of difficult for him. Then Dundee United
he had the blood clot issue as well, obviously, when he fell out the team. I think that was why they initially signed Gillespie.
Was it?
So, yeah, obviously he's had the problem with that. So, I mean, he's probably, I think if Robinson was still at Motherwell, he'd still be playing every week. So, he's a really good goalkeeper. We won't see much of a drop-off, or if any drop-off between him and Anik. Yeah, obviously, you know, I've been pretty vocal with Anik. I think he's the best goalkeeper I've ever seen at St Mirren. So, hopefully we don't see too much of a drop-off of that, if any. It's a very good start. You know, goalkeepers are probably one of the most important positions to fill. You can get a good goalkeeper, then it makes the defender's job that wee bit easier with that bit of trust, knowing that they've got a great keeper behind them.
Yeah, it's something we've always kind of touched on, especially in Scottish football. If you do not have a great keeper, like you're not like, look at that Hearts team that get relegated. It's like
look at the Hearts team just now.
I know.
You know, I think the stat with Craig Gordon saved them. I think it's 12 points this season. So I mean, 12 points is the difference between them being comfortable in third and them kind of shitting themselves and Dundee United breathing down their neck. So
especially for a goalkeeper who was finished, whose body language wasn't good enough to play for St Mirren, as someone once said on the Facebook group.
I actually think it was the regular contributor to the podcast, Lex, who said that he was finished. So that worked out really well, because Craig Gordon has since then, I think, he's more than likely going to take Scotland to the World Cup. Got in the team. I think he got in one of the teams. I think he's been in the team of the week. You know, every time he's played for Scotland.
He got the Football Writers Player of the Year. Yeah.
Hearts Player of the Year. But he's finished. Shite.
And I was going to say something else. Other incomings. I forgot his first name, but Bacchus. What was his first name again?
Keanu.
Oh, how could I forget that?
Brilliant.
Keanu Bacchus, man. Because he better be a revelation, because we're going to have so many puns for the podcast names next season.
He's made that 10 times. He's about that Matrix theme stuff that we can get out of that. There's, signings I love. I said at the time on Twitter, you know, I know absolutely fuck all about the guy, and I'm not even going to pretend to even claim that I think I watched him score a 20-yarder for Western Sydney Wanderers, but you know, I'm more than happy for us to go and explore a market like that. Hearts have had success with Cammy Devlin and Natty Atkinson at right back this year, who've both been really good. It's a league that people have kind of had a few pickups from in the last few years and have impressed when they've come over to Britain. So we'll see what happens. Really looking forward to seeing the guy play. There's not much else. What a name as well. Like, that's, even if he's shite, I'll probably get Bacchus and 6 in the back of my top.
I mean, see when he signed it, that's how I then found out that Western Sydney Wanderers no longer follow me on Twitter. Because I remember when they first get set up, it was like I lived in Sydney for a bit, and when they were first getting set up was like the year before, but I'd already planned on moving. I went, okay, they're playing in black and red, I'm going to follow them, and I think I was like within their first like 2,000 followers, so they followed me. And now, because they're obviously much bigger than they were now, they don't follow me anymore, so that's a bit disappointing.
Get it up them.
Mm-hmm. Although there is a former Australian, I think he was English, a former English player that's totally escaped my mind of who it is, who still follows me on Twitter. Do you know who it is? It's Danny Dichio. He's
fucking hell, it's random.
I know, and I have no idea why, but he's currently coaching in Australia, I'm sure. So there you go.
That's bizarre.
I know, but
fair enough.
Right, and news today. Well, obviously we've already mentioned Mark O'Hara before, but also news today that we've made a bid for Newport defender Cameron Norman. I mean, another player I can't tell you much about, but the fans' reaction usually tells you it's a good sign. I
think I did a wee look up at the stats. I think out of 46 games, he started 45, and the only other one he got subbed on as well. So I mean, he's clearly well regarded. Their fans seem to be losing their ag a wee bit, saying that they better get a good fee. But let's be honest, come on, it's Newport County. Yeah. As I said earlier, they'll get what they're fucking given, and they'll take it. Like they'll get the wee nominal 20 grand. We'll take their player because no one wants to play. I think one of the fans was actually having a go at Matman earlier. Then you've just got to kind of go back and say, like, you support a Welsh team, you live in Wales, and your team compete in the English leagues.
And you were once
come on.
And you were once sponsored by the greatest Welsh band of all time, Goldie Look and Chain. Which maybe, but I don't know if that was before your time, Sam, but when that Greatest Hits album came out, I was in high school and I fucking loved it. So much so that when I was in San Francisco and I bumped into a guy in a bar who happened to be from Newport, we filled the jukebox song after song from Goldie Look and Chain, which there was loads of Americans looking at us going, what the fuck? While we sang, Your Mother's Got a Penis from the top of her lungs.
Nah, but I'll not slag Newport too much. I think it's Coventry saying pointed it to me earlier on Twitter. They've been in the fifth round of the FA Cup twice, so I don't want to go on at them too much. That's like, wow, what a fucking achievement that is, lads. It's well done. We'll have your best player. You'll take 25 grand, and if you want anybody else, so come down and take them off your hands as well. No stress at all.
And moving on to the Player of the Year night was on Sunday just there. Thanks to Mark and Craig and Mark's pal Alison for getting us all these links, including one of the best ones, which you will hear in a second as soon as I get it lined up. Before we kind of talk about other gossip that we've heard from the Player of the Year thing, Connor Ronan getting Player of the Year, it was a must. I don't think there's anybody else you could really choose from.
It was an absolute certainty, but he was always going to get it. He was comfortably the best player. Obviously, there's been a few other consistent performers this season. Obviously, Big Joe, Jack. There hasn't been many, has there? I think Big Joe and Jack. But maybe give a wee shout out to Scott Tanser as well. He's had a good debut season, but
and he signed a new contract, which I totally forgot to mention. Yeah.
Obviously quickly touched on that. I think we were probably pretty surprised that he signed it. Mm-hmm. I think for some of the stuff that we've heard, I was pretty surprised, but very pleasantly surprised. He's a very good fullback, and I think Robinson, Goodwin, and Callum Davidson, Tommy Wright, everyone that's managed him said the same thing. He's one of the best fullbacks in the league. For goals, assists, like raw numbers for a position like that. He's been a very good signing for us. I think it's 2 goals and 7 assists for left back. I think he's better numbers than Durmus for last season, but we'll not go into that again already. I got too many folk for that on Twitter. Good signing. Good to keep lads like that involved. I think he seemed to push for a move every year for St Johnstone, so obviously shows he's a wee bit more settled, living in civilization and no Perth. I heard he actually has a car now and get the tractor to training. So
nice.
That's always a bonus.
And we'll mention player of the year, young player of the year. Jay Henderson, again, had to be he's the only young player that's actually been given a chance this season other than Ethan, and we know he's been too inconsistent to go for that. The goals that Jay Henderson scored for us, or even like the assists that he's made, like that one for Connor Ronan against, who was that against? Why is that blanked out? What, the header?
Dundee.
Yes, Dundee.
Yeah. He's been, I think obviously we've seen a wee bit of him at the tail end of last season when injuries or whatever kind of forced us to bring him in, and he's been a revelation since. He's a cracking player. Really, really, really like watching him. He's one of the ones that kind of gets your arse up off the seat. He's exciting to watch, and long may it continue. I think we've got him signed in for another 2 years after this as well. So we've still to see the best of him. I think Robinson will definitely give him a chance. Don't see why not. I don't see why he would. It's probably, I think, right wing, probably a position that you maybe don't think Guttensteiner starting in next year. So, more than happy to see Henderson play more next season. We'll definitely see more for him in terms of goals and assists.
Mm-hmm. Alan Power went up and it was apparently stood up to get his Young Player of the Year award when it was announced, but I think he was the drunkest man. Normally I would wait to the advert break for this, but I'm just going to play his one because we have a better one coming up soon as well. But how good's this?
Hi, you're Alan Power and listen to Misery Hunters.
He's so drunk. The fact he says, hi, you're Alan Power. That's like, I don't. The amount of times I listen to that, does he say you're? Is he saying you're Alan Power? Like,
hi, you're Alan Power and listen to Misery Hunters.
You're listening to Misery Hunters.
What a guy.
Yeah.
Good season he had as well, though. I mean, he was probably one of my shouts for the year before he kind of dropped off the boil a wee bit, but I can move on.
Yeah,
I think obviously onto the gossip stuff that we've heard.
So
just flat out call Jim Goodwin a fucking lying bastard.
Yeah,
probably that appropriate. Aye.
Yeah, so Gogic has said that don't believe what you've heard in newspapers about him wanting to move back to Cyprus. Maybe he realised he just didn't want to play under Goodwin, and he told Goodwin that. So what about a chance of a permanent deal? And he's like, yeah, I'm going back to Cyprus. That's what it is.
I would give him a left nut to see Gogic play for us next season.
I mean,
the backtracking I've had to do on that signing, like I done nothing but slaughter that guy when he played for Akis. I think there was a tweet I actually went back and deleted because I felt ashamed because I said he only kicked people because he has no technical ability. And all you need to do is watch him play a game. He's far better than what anyone gives the guy credit for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's really good on the ball. Like he's good off the ball. Like he's especially like if we've brought this Bacchus in, like if he's a defensive midfielder, so was Gogic. Play them together. Like obviously that was a kind of style we tried to go for, and it didn't really work because Ethan was the other defensive midfielder. I mean, I'd like to see it. I'd happily keep Gogic if he's up for it, which maybe it sounds like, but I'm going to take it with a pinch of salt because Isma told me at the Player of the Year that he would see me next season, and he didn't. So lying bastard.
He's along with Goodwin in the lying bastard category.
Mm-hmm. And Ross apparently had an exclusive where he was told that we'd signed a striker and he was very pleased for it, but he was that drunk that he doesn't remember.
Shame on you, Ross. I'm going to speculate and I'll make up a name on Twitter and bring it out in a few weeks.
Maybe it's that left.
Hopefully.
Like the left
Hopefully it's Louis Moult.
Louis Moult, I mean, that would be great. Or even who's the guy that plays for Morecambe now?
Obika?
No, definitely not Obika. Obika is not coming back. No one wants Obika back.
No, I know the guy at Cole Stockton.
Yes, Cole Stockton.
I would probably hedge a bet on the fact that he is well out of our price range because I think it might be Peterborough who were looking at signing him for 7 figures, and you know the Morecambe fans do seem to think that we are rich, but we are not that rich.
Yeah, but any more? I'm trying to think. I can't remember any more gossip from that other than Alex Grieve didn't know what a bird bath was, but now he does. Joe Shaughnessy called Ross a helmet, which I haven't got that recording lined up. Next time we'll have it.
That'll be on next week.
Yeah. Might save it for when he's actually eventually on the podcast, if he's ever on a podcast. Who knows?
Play it when he speaks, when you introduce him.
Every time.
Aye, I actually don't think it was that. No, that was it. I'm sure.
And Stephen McGinn's missus listens to the podcast, apparently. Hello, Ashley, if you're listening.
Aye, I think I met Ashley once when the day we won the league against Livingston, and I embarrassingly told her that her husband was my favourite footballer ever.
Oh, that sounds like a child. I love your husband. I love him.
19 years of age as well when I done that. So,
aye, you weren't even like a child to get away with that.
I was a working man. I was a year into my first actual proper, a year and a half into my first proper job, and embarrassed myself like that. So, aye, that's what it is. Just got to take it to the chin.
Yeah, but we will be back after this.
Hi, I'm goalkeeper Mark Howard, and you're listening to Misery Hunters. Fuck Sam Smith.
Yes. Thanks, Mark. That's why I had to get the Alan Power one in earlier.
I'm fucking gutted.
your face was brilliant there when you realised it was Mark Howard. You were like, oh, and then it was like, fuck Sam Smith.
That's shocking.
See, when I asked him,
that means you've spoke to Mark Howard.
Yes,
amazing.
About you? Well, kind of. I was like, this is going to sound weird, but can you say this? And he went, what's weird about that? And I went, but can you end it with fuck Sam Smith? And he was like, why? And then I said, oh, it's guy in the podcast, you're his favourite footballer, blah, 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 blah. And he went, oh, I thought you were talking about the singer. Like, I quite like his music.
Oh, that was good. I really enjoyed that. That was brilliant. Fucking get in there.
That's why when all these like voice notes were coming through from the Player of the Year, especially that Alan Power one, I was like, but I've got the Mark Howard one lined up.
Give me his Instagram, and I'll ask him for his phone number. Got a few things I want to ask him.
But yeah, now it's I actually do need to play something. Now it's time for.
Hello, this is Billy Mehmet, and this is the Billy Mehmet Hall of Fame. Let's do the dance.
Thanks, Billy. Normally this is the part we'd pass over to Mark, but he's not bothered to show up because apparently he's got better things to do. However, Sam has got everything prepared.
Well, obviously, welcome to this week's Billy Mehmet Hall of Fame inductee ceremony, as I'm renaming it this week. I think when we were kind of speaking about it in the week he was inducted to the Club's Hall of Fame, it's fitting that the best looking McGinn brother also finally takes his place in the Billy Mehmet Hall of Fame. No offence to John and Paul, but Stephen is the best looking. Mm-hmm. Stephen is the best looking out of the three of them. So I thrown up to the...
You've just reminded me one time when we were talking, like on an old podcast, when we were talking about how we should make a statue for like a player, and I said that we should have statues commemorating the McGinn's parents, in which we said that we have one for every position, and I don't know if it was you or Ross said that Paul McGinn was 100% a missionary baby. But sorry, it's just that popped into my head when you said that Stephen was the best looking one, because I think we said that was a proper, like, that was a full love, like, on holiday in Tenerife, all inclusive, back to the hotel. Yeah, there was a lot of love in that.
But speaking of Mr. and Mrs. McGinn, obviously Stephen's a product of the McGinn Family Academy, which is responsible for 45 more international caps in Greenock Mortons. Stephen was the first of three brothers to play for the club. Stephen was born in late 1988 and played his first football for St Mirren FCBC, which is now St Mirren Youth Football Club, who I happen to coach. Mm-hmm. But stepping into the first team squad as a 17-year-old, Stephen made his debut against Cali Thistle shortly after turning 18. Within a few weeks, he'd announced himself as our next great prospect with what was an absolute belter of a goal against Celtic. Obviously, the birth of Top Bin, but unfortunately, we lost that game 5-1. Obviously, scored again at Parkhead not too long after on the Mickey's 19th birthday, and while the goal was probably not as good as the first time, it was actually what essentially was an equaliser, but very nearly, if it wasn't for, I think it was Derek Riordan was an unlikely winner, and a game we drew one each at. But pretty self-explanatory what the best moment in his first spell at the club was. October 2008 at Love Street. I don't think I need to do too much describing of this. Beating Rangers 1-0 for the last time we played them at Love Street. Their first loss there in 22 years. Collected the ball for Mark's favourite ever player. Ran in 20 yards for goal, and still into much younger but still Hackett and still as guilty Alan McGregor. After a further season or so in the team, strong performances, Stevie earned his big move and then signed for then Championship Watford in 2010. Established as a first team regular the following season after signing what was probably going to plague him a wee bit throughout his career. Picked up the knee injury that ended his campaign and ruled him out for the majority of the following season as well, and struggling to recapture a bit of his fitness. Stephen was given a new deal, but ultimately put the break in the side, and a bit of a shame because obviously at the time, you can all remember it, Stephen McGinn was brilliant when he first broke through into the team. He definitely should have made a far higher level than he did.
Without that injury, he would have got a cap for Scotland, guaranteed.
Oh yeah, 100%. He was, obviously we'll touch on it, what he done when he came back at some point soon. But next up, he had short spells at Sheffield United, Wickham, a loan back to Scotland, but he ended up playing with his brother up at Dundee, and that was up until his 28th birthday. Then he hit a wee bit of a lull, and he was in search of regular football again. Then, undisputedly his finest ever, Jack Ross picks up the phone, asked if he wants to leave the riches and joys of Southern England for a spiralling basket case that were 20 odd points adrift at the bottom of the league in a fee game. And Paisley's ever I need, and McGinn answers. Returning, quickly taking on the captain's role, he was, for me, I think he was the most important signing the club's made in our lifetime. Definitely backed by a country mile. And I'm not just saying that, the guy's my absolute hero. He's my favourite football player of all time. There's so many things, and obviously I think the turning moment, I think Mark's obviously said to mention the goal against the New Saints, which for me, I say it every year when it comes up my Facebook memories or my Twitter memories, like it's probably the most important goal that's happened at the club. And I know it was obviously in a Challenge Cup game against a Welsh mob, but that completely kind of flipped the mindset and right, fuck, here we go, let's go, let's do this. And he brought everybody else on the pitch. He was an incredible. The last 6 months of the Great Escape season, he was just an absolute joy to watch at times.
He was a leader that was missing from the team for a long time.
He made everybody else better, and that's probably the best compliment you can pay a guy like that. He raised the standard straight away. For the first 6 months of that season, we were watching shite like Kyle Hutton, Ryan Hardy. Unlucky. Carswell was a baby at that point, but I think
Scott Agnew.
Oh fucking hell, man! Aye. So obviously Stephen received the captain's armband, which then he inspired the most probably unlikely title wins I think ever played Dundee United. Of me, I had £20 on Falkirk to win the league that year. They finished 8th, so that was really good for me. But obviously inspired the most unlikely title wins and dragged us back up to top flight football. Played a massive role under Kearney as well. And obviously was frozen out a wee bit by Stubbs at the start. Came back in, was essentially playing through injury, I think the rumours were. At that point.
I think you could tell like he was playing through pain for a lot of it.
And just further cemented himself as an absolute legend. Some of his performances under Kearney towards the end of the season we won the playoff are brilliant. And again, just done the same. He's playing with guys like Brad Lyons, who maybe aren't the best players, but he brings the best and absolutely everybody around him. A credit to the club. And I unfortunately fell out with Goodwin. I fell out of favour of the team, and even in the last season he still had a couple of great performances. Obviously the wee stint out the team, came back in against St Johnstone. I think it was for a second victory that season, beat St Johnstone 2-0. Rebecca scored. Come on, set the standard. He was top notch again, and you kind of show what you've been missing when you've got guys like that sitting on the bench and you're playing glorified journeyman like Sam Foley. But I've got over it, clearly. I don't let it affect me too much. So after he left us, unfortunately, he followed the Snake to Hibs after his release. Briefly showed up for a Gus McPherson and Andy Millen reunion tour at Capello before moving on to Kilmarnock, bagging the second championship title of his career by bullying Arbroath and denying probably the most popular title winners of all time in Scotland. But we'll let it slide,
Just for him.
We'll let it slide for him. I think he was the only person in that team I was happy for. But just to round it off, speaking of his induction, Stephen said it best in the most inaccurate quote we'll leave you with. Before the joy of winning the league in Paisley, we needed the pain of the previous year. I think we need that pain before the good times come back. That's why he played in Greenock and now have another league title.
To be fair, I was gutted when he get released. Like, I genuinely thought, and I think everybody, including himself, thought that he would go on to do some sort of coaching role with us. And it's really a shame that that's happened.
It was obviously trying to win the politics it too much, but I think Goodwin's got a lot of explaining to do for being a bit of a fucking arsehole towards a guy who could have easily just kind of went and kept taking money down England, but he took a massive risk coming up to us. He could have ended up being the captain who took us down into the third tier, but he never, and he deserved to be treated a lot better than he was by Goodwin. And hopefully, fingers crossed, one day we'll have him back, preferably as a manager, because that would be something I would absolutely get behind.
Mm-hmm. And the age difference between him and John is we could have him, Stephen McGinn managing, and John coming back to end his career at St Mirren. That'd be
get Paul being the kitman or something like that.
The missionary baby in the corner. Also worth mentioning that he once had a cameo appearance in Impractical Jokers when he was at Wycombe, because they, for some reason, the Impractical Jokers went to the Wycombe Stadium and were getting like penalties hit at them, like bent over or something like that. I'm sure one of them hit. I think did Steve McGinn hit one of them? I think he did.
Of course he did. Of course he did.
Mm-hmm.
Of course he did.
That was. I just remember randomly going, "Is that Stephen McGinn?" Yep.
There's not much else more you can add on it. The guy's just he's a St Mirren legend. I think obviously a lot of people kind of throw the word in football a wee bit too lightly, but he's a legend by every stretch. He's still thought of fondly here by everybody, basically. So, as we said, hopefully get him back one day, and he can maybe apologise for playing for Morton. But
I mean, David Van Zanten's in the Hall of Fame, and he played by Morton and all. So
Craig Sampson's in the Hall of Fame, so that fucking sums it up for me. Anybody can get in.
Is he? I didn't even realise. He's not in our Hall of Fame though, is he? So
nah, he's not in the real one, and I guarantee you Stephen would rather be in the Billy Mehmet Hall of Fame than the St Mirren Hall of Fame.
I mean, I'd rather it be called the Stephen McGinn Hall of Fame than the Billy Mehmet Hall of Fame, but I happened to be too busy to present the shows at that point, and Mark took power to his head and went mental.
He became a bit of a dictator, but we'll let it slide.
Yeah, just that once. Unfortunately, he's left his mark though. But welcome, Stephen, to the technically the Misery Hunters Hall of Fame, but it's just named after Billy Mehmet at the moment. And Billy Mehmet's not even bloody in it.
Mark can do the episode himself. Billy Mehmet's been in it. And if he's anywhere near the all-time great swing, then that's a podcast I've not been participating. I'll probably leave the podcast that day. Let him run it.
Don't worry, we'll get a rebranding in there soon. The only reason it's stuck so long is because he's got Billy Mehmet introducing it. We'll get this sorted eventually. But thanks for listening. Go to miseryhunters.co.uk. You can read Andrew Christie's blog on there. And obviously all our merch is on there as well. Alex Grieve, your t-shirt is coming soon. Stop asking. You'll have it for the Livingston, or after the Livingston game. Also go to paisleycraftbeer.com, local delivery, all that kind of thing. Yeah, you'll have heard the advert I put at the start of the episode anyway. But as always, this is always, I should think about this beforehand, because I can never think and then I say Alex Ray and I'm like, I'm a bit disappointed I always say Alex Ray, but fuck it. Fuck Alex Ray.
Fuck Jim Goodwin.
Yeah, that's a good one. Fuck Jim Goodwin.